Welcome to the Fertility Coaching Mastery Podcast. I'm Dr. Kayla Smith, fertility and hormone expert and founder of the Hormone Puzzle Society. I help wellness professionals like chiropractors, acupuncturists, doulas, nutritionists, personal trainers, and health coaches integrate fertility coaching into their work and build thriving, purpose-driven practices. I also work with beginners who are ready to step into this work and use their own painful story for their purpose. If you're ready to confidently support fertility clients, attract aligned clients, and grow a business that truly makes an impact, you're in the right place. Now let's dive in. On today's show, we have Adam Schaeuble. He is an online business coach for podcasters. He teaches podcasters simple strategies to help them grow their audience and turn their content into new clients. He has been podcasting since 2015, and he's the host of the top 100 ranked entrepreneurship podcast, Podcast Business School. He has recorded over 1,000 episodes with over 1 million total downloads in his podcasting career. Today, we are going to talk to Adam about how podcasts can help you grow your online business and attract new clients. Now, let's welcome Adam to the podcast. Hey, Adam, welcome to the podcast.
Dr. Kayla, I'm excited to be here and I appreciate the invite and I hope that I can add some serious value to your audience here today.
I love it. I get so many questions about podcasting and I thought you were the perfect person to talk to about this. I'm really pumped that you're here.
Good. Well, I'm obsessed with it. It's had a major impact on my life, on my business, and I love to spread the word.
Amazing. Well, let's just dive right in. Tell us your journey. How'd you get into this work?
Yeah, so my first podcast was in the health space. I'm a recovering gym owner, as I like to put it. I owned a fitness facility for 15 years, and I launched my first podcast in 2015 with the hopes of building an online space, kind of like what I did with my homegrown brick and mortar studio. And I quickly realized there was a lot of opportunity, but I didn't really know how to access it. So I kind of struggled for the first 3 years. My story is like 2015, 2016, 2017, I earned a total of $37 from my podcasting efforts. I had some Four Sigmatic mushroom affiliate cash roll through there. And then I started figuring out how to, instead of chasing sponsors and chasing affiliates, I started converting listeners into clients. And that's when things really changed. So end of year 3, I made $37. By the end of year 5, I had replaced my income as a gym owner, sold my gym, went full time in 2019. Note, sold my gym at the end of 2019. That was a key move right there. I started getting a lot of questions about how do you get clients from your podcast? How do you build a membership program from your podcast? So I created a show just to address that. The show is called Podcasting Business School, and I eventually sold my entire online fitness brand, and Podcasting Business School is the only thing I've been doing since about 2021. And my goal is to teach people how to grow their audience with a podcast and then turn those listeners into paying clients.
I love it. It's amazing. And I feel like we're kindred spirits. I started as a personal trainer. I did that for 10 years until I went into the business of online coaching in 2018 before the big pandemic happened. And podcasting has been one of the ways that I've actually grown my business as well. And so for our students listening to this and for people who want to be students, I think this is, they're going to get some great gems. So it's a really cool thing that you're here.
Yeah.
So talk to us about, I get this question a lot. When should I start a podcast? Talk to us about that piece.
Yeah, well, let me even pick that apart because I know what people are thinking a lot of times, like, isn't it saturated? There's so many people with podcasts. And, it seems like all of our, friends and like relatives that are starting podcasts about random things like Pokemon cards and stuff. So is it saturated? So let's address that. That'll help us make that decision of should we start one in the first place? And I don't know how many blogs there are, YouTube channels there are, but there are just an infinitesimal amount more than podcasts. And, just looking at YouTube channels alone. So especially with an audio podcast, there have been about 6 million that have been launched, but only 10% can say these two things. Only 10%, so only about 600,000 can say that they've released more than 10 episodes and have released any content in the last 90 days.
Wow. So
there are lots of podcasts, not a lot of people podcasting with the ing at the end. Okay. A lot of people launch. Only 5% of shows make it to episode 100. 5%.
Wow.
I was talking with Dr. Kayla. I'm at 1,400 episodes. She's over 500 episodes. So we are in like the 0.001% of podcasters doing this. So there's a huge opportunity to show up in people's earbuds, especially if you're looking for clients. So is podcasting saturated? Heck no. It's wide open and growing in popularity. And so when should you? I think, there's hobby podcasters and there's business-minded podcasters. My audience are the business people. I think it's fine to have a hobby, and I have hobbies like, I grow flowers and I exercise and things like that. But this can be a superpower for someone that's a coach that is trying to impact other people, because we can develop expert positioning and show up every single week as a voice of reason and knowledge and understanding in their earbuds. So if you fit that description, especially as an audio-only podcast, which I'm an audio-only podcast with over 1 million downloads. Like, I don't do any video content. That's something very unique about me, because I ain't got time. I'm a dad. I'm a husband. I got lots of stuff to do. I'm coaching the teams, doing the workouts, cooking the meals. So I think that if people have thought about doing a show and you want to do it for business reasons, it is an excellent idea to start a show.
And I completely agree. I think it grows that know, like, and trust, and you're in these people's ear and you almost become a little celebrity in their world, which is really cool. You say that there's 3 things that people should think about before they start a podcast. So let's talk about that. What are the things that we should really focus on first?
Right. You got to know who your ideal client avatar is. Because here's the problem. A lot of us get the idea, almost everybody that listens to podcasts thinks like, I think I could start a podcast. But we have to create the show that is going to attract the ideal client avatar. We have to find the sweet spot between that and the show that we actually want to create. And that's where the magic happens. If you create a show that you think is cool, we're in trouble. It has to start with the person we're trying to impact. So with this show, we're trying to level up fertility coaches and educate them and help them level up their game and help them help more people, which is why that was the first reason I saw. I'm like, this is a great show. This is a definite yes for me, because you're helping people help people in these situations that are very difficult to deal with. So this is awesome. So who are we trying to impact? And then we have to think about, how are we going to create episodes that actually add value to them? Because anytime you hit record and publish, you got to ask the question, am I adding value or am I just adding to the noise? Because there's a lot of noise out there. We all know this. A lot of marketing, a lot of ads, a lot of everything, and a lot of content and coming at us in all different directions. So are we adding value to where we can become the people's champion within that niche or that sub niche that we're kind of carving out for ourselves? And if we can do that, you're going to show up every day. And consistency is huge in podcasting. I've released an episode every single week for 11 years. I've never missed a week, ever. Wow. I've released a newsletter every single week since 2018. Never missed a week, because I love it. I can't see myself not doing it, and it fuels my business. So those are some things that we need to think about. Like, what's the show going to be about? What are we interested in? What does our audience actually need from us? And then what is the type of content that we can actually create on a weekly basis? We have to assess our situation. Do we have a team? Do we have a VA? Am I doing this solo? Do I have no idea what I'm doing? 2015, I started 000. 0 podcast listeners, 0 email list, 0 social media following. Wasn't even on Instagram. 000. If you've got 1,000 people following you on the gram, that's a huge advantage. If you've got a VA, huge advantage. If you've been on a bunch of podcasts before, you kind of know how it works, huge advantage. But a lot of us start 000, and we have to kind of understand what it's going to take to get, it's a heavier lift for that person. So those are some things we need to think about prior to our launch.
Yeah. And all of that makes so much sense. And I think it's so important, like you said, really know what you're talking about. I think somebody that struggled with infertility and has walked through that journey, they're the perfect person to guide another person. And so really being clear in that niche and that vision for yourself. And I love that you say consistency too, because this is something I see a lot of coaches do, where they'll get so excited, they'll start something and then they're not consistent because life gets in the way. Yeah. So talk to us about that. How have you been able to be so consistent over 11 years? I mean, that's amazing. So any strategy around that? Yeah. Like, how do you do that?
The biggest pro tip I can give people, like I said, I'm audio only by choice, but I think every podcaster should do their first 10 episodes audio only before you add any video, because video is such a heavier lift. And so when I say podcast, to me, the word podcast and the word YouTube channel are 2 different things.
Yes.
Okay. So podcast is audio, YouTube channel is the YouTube channel. It's video. If you guys hear me say the word podcast, I just want you to know that's what I'm talking about. But like adding YouTube, I have friends that have very successful YouTube channels, but they've got hundreds of thousands of followers, but they spend hours and hours, like 6 hours editing a 15-minute video. I'm like, I ain't got time for that. So, I record 2 to 4 episodes a week, and it all in takes me less than an hour.
Yeah.
And so I would recommend launching first 10 episodes audio only. You can always add video, and you can always record the video. Like right now, Dr. Kayla and I are talking on video. This is being recorded. It can be used as a YouTube video at any point in time. But just produce the audio only, because you got to get your reps in and figure out that cadence. Only 17% of podcasters make it past episode 10. That's why I want 10 audio only episodes. We got to get across that first hump, because by episode 7, you start going, oh my gosh, I don't even have any sponsors yet. Not one single underwear company has called me to sponsor my show yet, Dr. Kayla. I thought this is what's supposed to happen. This is what Gary Vee promised me. This is what Mel Robbins said would happen, and it's not happening. So it's it can be a little bit of a rug pull feeling, like, oh man, I thought this was going to be a lot easier than it actually is. So let's make it as easy as possible. And if you're spending hours editing YouTube clips and doing IG reels and all this stuff, especially if you don't have any help, we got to make it as easy as possible. All right. So that's one pro tip with the content creation. The other thing that I always tell my clients, especially when we're doing a launch, is we need to block off and electric fence off a specific spot in our calendar for content creation. So for years and years and years, that for me, that's been Tuesday mornings. And it's just grown. Like as I was part-time into full-time, now I can do whatever I want. But when I owned my gym, it was Tuesday afternoons. I had an hour block from 3 to 4. I shut down the gym. No clients were coming in there. I would sit in the middle of my studio, stick my mic there, and record a couple of episodes or do an interview or whatever, then edit it and create some social media promo stuff, and done. But when we launch, a real trick to this is when I do launch clients, we launch with 4 episodes live, because I want a little bit of a sampler platter for people to dig into. But we actually have 6 episodes ready. So I want to start with a 2-week buffer. And we always try to keep the buffer, because that's where they get to episode 7, no sponsors, a little bit disheartening, not as many downloads. I'm not famous yet. I thought that would happen by 7 episodes at least. But now you've got a 2-week content buffer, because it's so easy. You get sick, you lose your voice, your kids are out of school, you go on a vacation. It's like working out. Spring break kills the momentum when people get out of their workout routine. Same thing happens with content. So make it easier, create a buffer from the start. And like every launch client I do, we always have a 2-week buffer, sometimes even a little bit more. I had a football coach that hired me to help them launch a show, Texas high school football coach, great guy. He's have an awesome show. But we had a 10-week content buffer, because he's getting ready to go into summer practice season and all this stuff. And I'm like, dude, you will not have time to do this. So increase the buffer during busy seasons of life. But weekly content is actually a superpower with audio, because people will consume that and we can insert our content into their life routine. That's why I never want to miss a week, because it's so hard to get that real estate. I don't want to give it to another podcast, because if I'm a dedicated Dr. Kayla podcast listener and I listen to her show every Wednesday when I'm doing my lunch break, and she takes a month off in between seasons, which I don't recommend either, I'm going to listen to something else. And maybe I forget about Dr. Kayla's show, and maybe I don't get back to it. So that's kind of the reasoning behind the weekly cadence as well.
Yeah, I love all of that. And I love that you say that you block time in your schedule for this, because that's also what I recommend. It's so important, because life gets busy and life gets in the way. But if you have a set schedule for this, then it's always going to get done. And I love that you do that, 6-show release or 10-show cadence. I think that's so important too, because you need that buffer. I mean, we're months and months ahead, because we continuously block schedule, record our show, and then it just stacks up, which is good if we get sick or, need to take
Yeah. Our voice is our tool. Allergy season is happening, and sometimes I lose my voice. I think there's too many podcasters with business level goals and expectations, but they put in hobby level effort where they fit it in wherever it fits in their life. And I'm like, this is why it's not going to work. I did a lot of things wrong my first 3 years, but the one thing I did right was this is a business strategy. This is a part of my business, and I will show up that way. This isn't a hobby. This isn't gardening for me. And you have to be able to differentiate between those two things.
Yeah, completely. I totally agree. And that's what we tell our coaches too, and our students, about the whole thing of starting this business. This is a business. It's not a hobby. You're not in here doing laundry and stuff because you're at your house. This is an actual business, and you need to treat it that way. And I love that you say strategy, because podcasting, it is a strategy for your business.
Yes.
Yeah. And you talked about mistakes. So I want to hear this. Tell us the mistakes that you've made. Well, maybe top 3 mistakes that you want to keep somebody else from making.
Yeah. I mean, years and years and years of mistakes.
Same.
But that's the thing. I don't want anybody that's thinking about launching a show to be scared away by the mistakes, because all the mistakes I made became my greatest podcast episodes, because as of today, I've got 620 episodes of Podcasting Business School. And the bulk of that is from mistakes that I made. I figured out what I did wrong. I tried something different. I fixed it, and I unpack what actually worked. That's great content. Those are offers. Those are things that we can sell. Those are what make us position as the people's champion on our own show. Bringing somebody along for the ride. You don't have to be the expert when you start. You're probably 2 or 3 steps ahead of the ideal listener, and you're going to take them along on your journey towards expert status. I think that's a huge mistake, is people think they have to be an expert. Like, oh, I have to know everything about everything. Especially, I recommend doing a lot of solo episodes and a lot of like what I call coaching episodes, live coaching on the show. And that can be a little bit like that imposter syndrome creeps up. So we can't let that happen. And we can get into that strategy a little bit later. The biggest mistake that I see that I made initially with my health show is the name. People create a cute, if you think your name is cute, if you think your name is funny, if you think your name is creative, it is a terrible podcast name. If it's the same name as your book, if it's the same name as your Instagram handle, if it's the same as your website URL, it's a bad podcast name 99% of the time. Because a lot of people make another mistake of thinking that a podcast is only for nurturing. 90+% of my clients find me, discover me because of my audio only podcast. They search podcasting tips on Apple or Spotify. My show pops up, 620 episodes full of expert positioning and direct calls to action. I have people buying my stuff. So the name of your show is really important. So I got what I call my perfect podcast naming formula. If you guys don't pay attention to anything else that I say, pay attention to this, because literally it will double your downloads within a month. Okay. And we're going to test something with Dr. Kayla's show here. So it's simple. It's simple. It's simple. So my perfect podcast naming formula is, when I read the name of the show, number 1, I want to know what it's about. Number 2, I want to know who it's for. Number 3, I want to see 2 keywords. But the most important thing is I want the first word to be a keyword. Now, a mistake like 99% of podcasters make is they put the word "the" at the beginning of the name of their show. And that's the most powerful keyword spot. You just put the word "the" in there. So Dr. Kayla's show has the word "the" as the first word. The second word is a huge keyword, fertility. So you can I could call my show the Podcasting Business School. I don't, but I could. Verbally, I can call it whatever I want. The listed name, first word, is the most highly searched keyword in my niche, podcasting. So all I want Dr. Kayla to do is just erase "the" in her podcast host. So it starts with fertility. I bet you double your downloads just because of that single thing. I've seen people with hundreds of episodes that do this, and they're blown away by just shifting over so the first word is a keyword. This is the thing that unlocks people finding you easily on Spotify and Apple. It's just a huge, huge deal. Wow. And like getting real traction and seeing like, wow, I was doing, okay, example, when I speak at live events, I like to do things that people don't normally do. I pull people up on stage and I start coaching them. And like, when people are doing the PowerPoint and looking back at it and doing all this stuff, and I'm like, all right, here's some things. Now, who wants to try this? I'll pull them up on stage. So I pulled this woman up on stage at PodFest a couple years ago, and a great event for podcasters. Shout out to PodFest, Orlando, Florida. And I pulled her up, and I don't even remember. It was a cute name. It was one of those cute, funny, it was like loving, life, and living, it was like, or something like that. A lot of randomness. Like, I don't know what this is about. And she did about a little bit over 500 downloads the previous 12 months total. 500 in total for the previous year in 12 months, about 40 downloads an episode, or a month. So not doing great. So we changed her name, and now it's called Mental Health for Christian Women. She did 108,000 downloads from that name change. So whatever X that is, huge difference. So just the name of your show unlocks discoverability, SEO on Apple and Spotify. I don't care about web SEO and podcast SEO is 2 totally different things. So, but just that little thing, and people fight me. I have people pay me thousands of dollars for one-on-one consulting, and they fight me on this, especially if they got like a design team. Like, but it's not on brand. I'm like, neither is 2 downloads an episode. Like, what are we doing this for? I always talk about that scene in Lord of the Rings where the wizard's like, you shall not pass. I'm like, we're doing that to all of our ideal listeners because we call it the Cutie McCutie Pants show, and who cares? So that's like the biggest thing. If I could get everybody just to use my perfect podcast naming format, I read it, I want to know what it's about, I want to know who it's for, I want to see 2 keywords, you will explode your downloads. And now we have more people actually podcasting.
Amazing. And I'm going to do that as soon as we get off of here. I'm changing both names of my podcast.
Get the out of there.
Love it. Amazing. You mentioned something else too about doing solo episodes. And I do a lot of solo podcasting, and I recommend my students do that as well. So talk to us about that strategy. Why do you say that, and why do you think it's so powerful?
Yes. Oh, you're speaking my language now, my podcasting love language. So when people start podcasting, a lot of people think it's got to be video and it's got to be interviews, because that's what Mel Robbins does. That's what Joe Rogan does. That's what Amy Porterfield, all of our podcasting heroes. But when we're trying to build expert positioning and get clients, we have to take a different strategy. If you primarily do interview-based episodes, your audience will not see you as the expert. They will see you as the person that interviews the experts. Big problem when it comes to converting listeners into clients. And I have people that I get the freak out DMs, Dr. Kayla, of like, I just had this person on my show and they're kind of in my niche, and I'm getting all these DMs of people asking them about buying their service and not mine. And people freak out when that happens. Like, oh my God, they see the thousands of dollars going out the window. So I'm not anti-interview, but I've got a 2/3 content rule, which states that 2/3 of my content and my client's content must position them as the expert. So that's solo episodes, and that is what I call coaching episodes, where we invite a listener onto the show and we coach them as if they're paying us. Great for expert positioning. And 1/3 are interviews, like what we're doing here today. So we still get that networking connection and leveraging someone else's audience and all this stuff. Like, interviews are great, but 1/3 of the content for me, I have about 4 or 5 episodes a year where I invite someone on my show. Like, it's way less than 1/3. And I do an episode every single week. So out of the 52, it's probably about 10%. So it doesn't have to be those exact ratios. Now, I know some of your people that already have podcasts that are listening, they're freaking out. I would just say throttle back to a 1-to-1. So every other week, do interview, solo. But the solo episodes, they're easier to record. You can batch record them. If you have a hard time staying, to that weekly cadence, a big mistake people make with solos is they're like, oh, my interviews are 45 minutes. Therefore, my solo episodes must also be 45 minutes because that's what our audience is used to. Like, these are the things that we tell ourselves, and it's not true. My recording time rule is you say what needs to be said, and then you stop talking. That's an episode. I don't care if it's 7 minutes, 70 minutes, 7 hours, whatever. Deliver the value, and then you're done. So like, if we're recording this and Dr. Kayla's like, okay, at 32 minutes, we're good, then we're good. Like, that's the way it is. We deliver the value, then we're done. So with a solo episode, a lot of times they fall into like 10 to 20 minutes. Sometimes they're a little bit less. They're kind of like, a 7-minute thought, tip of the day sort of thing. But that really helps with that weekly cadence as well, because we can batch record those. I can sit down and record 4 of those, no problem. And so that keeps us ahead. It builds expert positioning. It's easier to sell from those episodes. It's like a TED Talk. If you want to get booked to speak on stages, you better be doing solo episodes, because people that are looking for speakers, like, they're not looking for good interviewers, looking for speakers, And if you're applying for TED Talks, send a bunch of solo episodes in of your show on that topic. Like, it's really going to help. And it does help with your public speaking and things like that as well. So those are some of the huge benefits, but mainly it's expert positioning, because again, and people are sometimes, again, that imposter syndrome pops up. But when we're dropping these solo episodes, especially like the first couple, people always come back to me shocked, like, Adam, these are really well received.
Yeah.
People are emailing me and saying, it's great to hear from you. I'm very interested. Like, I came to this show for you. And so your audience will respond when you give them more of you.
I love it. And you also talked about calls to action. When we do a solo, I feel it is easier to weave in that call of action, but even on an interview. So you say you have some strategy around that. Talk to us about that.
Yeah, it's another one of my weird little quirks that works really well. It's really different. And again, it's like fingernails on a chalkboard for a lot of content creators. And I fight with my clients about this, but I'm just like, just give it a shot. Just give it a shot. I have a single call to action rule per episode. 1. We get 1. Now, here's the issue. For those people that have that pre-recorded intro with the song and dance, da-da-da, here comes the Adam Cutie Pie Show. And that's like, follow me on Instagram, follow me on Pinterest, write me a letter, send me your questions, 5-star rating and review, da-da-da, buy my thing, get the free stuff. I just threw 12 calls to action. Those are all calls to action. Even like email me with questions, call to action. So I do one. Like, I'm a big fan of the book, The One Thing, Jay Papasan, Gary Keller. What's the one thing? If you got somebody from your audience today to do one thing, what would have the most impact for them and for you and your business? Like, what is that one thing? So for me, if I'm in an active campaign promoting an offer, that's the one thing. I don't want them to go on my newsletter. I don't want them to go to my social media. I want them to know, like, the cart is open. If you are struggling with X, Y, and Z, this offer is for you. Go to the show notes and get that thing. Let's get going. And I don't talk about I don't divert their attention anywhere else. I do that at the beginning. I'll mention it mid, and then I'll do that as they exit. Same exact thing. Simple, no matter what the episode is. Now, if I'm not actively selling something, there are two things that I promote: discovery call or my newsletter. I don't randomly talk. I don't ask people to follow me on a social media account. I don't have any lead magnets. My newsletter is my lead magnet. I know if somebody's wanting to do business with me, let's have a discovery call. Let's chat about it. I want to open that door as often as possible. And then my newsletter is my second highly valuable piece of content. And each week my newsletter is different than my podcast. That's another mistake a lot of podcasters make. The newsletter is a promotion of the episode. I don't do that at all. It's another, like, if you only get 50% of my content if you only listen to the podcast. So you got to get on the newsletter. And what I found personally is that's a great call to action, because when people are listening to podcasts, audio podcasts, they're doing something else. They are running, they're eating lunch, they're doing the dishes, they're doing Romanian deadlifts at the gym, or whatever. It's leg day. So they hear calls to action. They're not going to stop and pull over the car and buy something. But they can remember, you got to get in my newsletter because of blah, blah, blah. And the next time they get a chance, it's a really easy, okay, here's my email. Now I'm going to get that. When someone is reading my newsletter, I've got a captive audience. They are not doing Romanian deadlifts at the gym when they're reading my newsletter. They're sitting down in front of a screen. We're used to buying things and clicking on things and signing up for things when we're sitting down and looking at a screen. So now for my newsletter, I'll say, hey, you need to buy this thing. I sell so much more effectively from that. So ideal for me, somebody finds me from Apple and Spotify. They start binging my episodes. They hear very simple, very specific, singular calls to action. Eventually they pop into my newsletter, and those newsletter subscribers become buyers.
Wow. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I love that. Such a simple strategy, but so powerful. Yeah. Amazing.
It works.
Yeah. And then, so would you put, if you're actively promoting something and that's your call to action on the show, would you put the newsletter in your show notes? Like, to tell people, or you don't put anything other than that one piece of
Great question. So the show notes, the episode notes for a podcast, I will put an additional, like, I always have my newsletter and my discovery call link in there as well, because now they're looking at a screen.
Yeah.
Right. So, but audio, like, they're driving along, I only give them one audio input. I only want them to hear one thing. Yeah. And they end up there and they'll say, oh, I always hear him talking about that newsletter. I'm going to sign up for that real quick too. So it's just, we flip from audio to now I'm looking at a screen and clicking on things. So it's just, it's almost the same, but that's a great question. So yeah, one audio cue. Then I wouldn't put, like, my show notes are real thin. It's like 2 sentences of, here's what this episode is about, here's who should be listening to it, and then my links. And because a lot of podcasters assume that there's SEO value in the show notes and there's zero. So you don't even have to get keywords in there. If you take that and turn it into a blog or something, then, or use it for YouTube, then you should have keywords in there. But yeah, I like to keep it super simple. And that way, if somebody is in their car in between sets at the gym, they can just scroll through it and click on a thing and off we go.
Gotcha. And then do you never tell people to follow your show? Because that's kind of, if they're listening to your show and they like it, they're going to follow it anyways. You don't really need to say that.
Correct. I feel like wasted calls to action are things like follow, because, okay, I use my parents as an example. My parents are darn near 80 years old. They know what a podcast is. I can just verbally tell them, hey, Dad, go find Dr. Kayla's podcast, and he can find it. Verbal cue to 80-year-old. He can find it. He can go, and I'm super proud of him. Oh. So they know how to hit the follow button. They know what that means. I feel like we're educated podcast consumers at this point. So we don't need to say that. Asking for ratings and reviews, that's a way down the tier as far as calls to action to me. When I'm launching a show, I've kind of like a little tiered strategy where when we initially launch, that is the time that we only ask people to follow the show. Like the first 4 to 6 episodes, I'm like, follow this show, make sure you don't miss an episode. But that's the only thing that we talk about. Like, let's just get them addicted to Dr. Kayla's new podcast. Yeah. Then we'll do a call to action for another 4 to 6 episodes of just get on the email list. So if you have a killer lead magnet, a newsletter, you focus on one thing and, like, just get them on our email list. Then we start folding in, here's an offer, here's a discovery call, and we start to kind of roll through that. But ratings and reviews, a lot of podcasters ask for that. A lot of people don't know how to do that. I think that's more of effective, like a social media strategy, where what I like to do with clients is go, okay, let's ramp up your ratings and reviews. Let's get them up to 50 to 100. You've got 2,000 people following you on Instagram. Let's put up a post or an Instagram story saying, hey, we're doing a challenge this week. Leave me a rating and review, screenshot it, and tag me in your stories, and you're entered to win something, an Amazon gift card or something related to your niche. And now we're collecting ratings and reviews via social media, and we can screenshot those. Those are great for social proof, website, Instagram Reels. Those can be used everywhere. So it's more of a back end strategy than me saying that on the podcast.
Gotcha. That makes a lot of sense. You also mentioned sponsors. When should somebody think about sponsors?
Yeah. Let me say this. I don't accept sponsors at all. Zero. I used to do that with my health podcast. I kind of learned what it was about. Just to tell people and just to set it straight, like if your show isn't doing about 5,000 or more downloads per episode or 20,000 a month, sponsors will not talk to you. So here's the deal. Only 20% of podcasters even do 1,000 downloads an episode. Only 20. So not very many people are getting there. And the sponsorship rate, it's called CPM, cost per mil. The going rate is they will pay you between $18 and $25, not hundreds of dollars, $18 to $25, singular dollars for every 1,000 downloads. So let's do the math. 80% of podcasters are not even doing 1,000 downloads, so they can't even earn $18 from a sponsorship slot. I'll take a $3,000 consulting client, please. Like, I'm from Indiana, but I can do that math. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, I've done the math, and it's like, okay, $18 for this, or affiliate income is even worse. Yeah, that's how I made $37 the first 3 years. No thanks. So to me, I don't want my singular call to action to be about athletic greens and get $18. I want to get clients. And recurring revenue. That's a lot better. So I'm not going to divert my audience's attention just to look cool as a podcaster and say I've got sponsors. I'm a monetized show. Who cares? We got to throw that ego junk out the window. Like, let's get clients. Let's help people. Let's help our people help people via client acquisition, memberships, masterminds, workshops, courses. Like, there's so much we can do. So to me, sponsorship is a no-go. Now, if you have a hobby show, that's where the hobby podcasters are it's a tougher road, because now they're like, okay, I'm talking about 1990s movie nostalgia or something like that, or like some cartoon I liked when I was 5 years old. I've got to grow this huge audience and then hopefully get sponsors to come in. Now, there are some unique situations. I had a client that had a very, very niche podcast that was about moms of triplets. Okay. And she got sponsored by Pampers, because even if you have 100 listeners, that's 300 baby butts that need Pampers, so they're all moms. So there's some unique situations like that. But overall, I mean, the brand deals, they're hard. They're hard, Dr. Kayla. I mean, they're difficult to manage. And then how many of us have, just look at the news every day and some company's doing something dumb, and now we've been talking about them on our podcast, and now we're affiliated with them. We got to figure out what to do about that. So to me, it's just completely not worth it to even go down that road. So that's personal thoughts about sponsorships.
Yeah, and I completely agree. We tried doing sponsorships on my shows, and I always came back to, I want them to learn about my products and services, not my sponsorship. I love that you say that, and I completely agree.
Oh, that makes me feel better.
Yeah. You're sitting here saying all that. I'm like, oh, we're fully sponsored. What do you mean?
But I love sponsors, Adam. Oh, my God.
Right. Oh, my goodness. Well, I could just talk to you all day, Adam. We do have to take a short break, and so we're going to do that now. But before we do, I always like to leave this first half of the show with a message of hope. Somebody's listening, they're thinking about starting a podcast, or overwhelmed, they don't really know for sure. What would you say to that person?
Well, I'll tell you straight up, getting my show to over 1 million downloads was the hardest thing I've ever done in my business, but it unlocked a life cheat code. I have a 3-day work week. I am involved in my children's life at an annoying, their words, level. Like, I am always around. I coach all the teams. I do all the meals. Like, it's just, I will totally do it all over again if I had to. I've done some really hard things. Like, I've lost over 100 pounds. This was way harder than losing 100 pounds. But like, it's worth the reward on the other end. So this may be one of the hardest things that you ever do, but it can potentially unlock all these amazing things and lifestyle leverage. So that's why I would do it all over again if I had to.
Amazing. I love it. So we are going to take a short break. And the second half of the show is always practical tips. You've given us so much. So the person listening, stay tuned for the second half. We're going to give you some real meaty stuff that you can go and do right now. So we'll be right back. Before we continue, I want to share a resource with you. If you're a beginner or a wellness professional who feels called to support fertility, but you're not quite sure how to actually turn that into a coaching offer or a business, well, I've created something to help you. It's called Fertility Coaching Roadmap. Inside, I walk you through step-by-step how to integrate fertility coaching into your current practice, transition into a virtual or online business, attract and enroll aligned clients, and create real lasting results. If you're ready for more clarity and direction, you can download the free roadmap in the show notes. Now let's get back to the episode. Hey Adam, welcome back.
I am back for the meaty stuff. Let's go.
Yeah. So we always like to do this, have practical tips. You've given us a lot, but maybe 3 to 5 non-negotiables for somebody thinking about starting a podcast or somebody who wants to grow their show. What would you say?
Okay, so the quick review things would be use my perfect podcast naming formula. That's an absolute must. The other thing is weekly content. Like you got to find a way to get that weekly content. The third thing, expert positioning. Be the expert on your own show if you want to convert listeners into clients. If you got a hobby, who cares? But if it's a business, we got to do that. I think the other non-negotiable would be find opportunities to make your audience a part of your show. Very few podcasters do this. I do it in a lot of ways. So let me give you some practical tips on this, because this is how we become the people's champion. We can't gauge our podcast strategy off somebody that's famous. Like if you listen to a group of famous comedians doing a show, you can't be like, that podcast strategy, step 1 is become a famous comedian. So good luck. That's not going to work. Step 1, become Kevin Hart. Okay, no problem. So Will Ferrell, got it. Check. So we have to take a different strategy. And for me, it's always been make my audience a part of the show. Different ways that I do that. When you listen to every episode of Podcasting Business School, the very first noise, the very first sound you hear is a glowing client testimonial. I do not have an intro to my show. I let my clients intro my show by giving me a testimonial. Expert positioning creates offer awareness. Hey, I used Adam's podcast launch blueprint to get my show and blah, blah, blah. And they get to shout out their show on my show. So that's a little bonus, little give for them, little ad for their show. So they love doing it. So testimonials, audio testimonial clips. Dr. Kayla helped me to do this with my business, and it's been so helpful. I did her blah, blah, blah program. And just a quick testimonial collection pro tips. Give them a very loose script and give them a time limit. I say 60 seconds. I use an app called SpeakPipe, P-I-P-E, speakpipe.com. It just records to the cloud. They can re-record it. I go, hey, you got 60 seconds. Say, hi, my name is XYZ from the XYZ podcast. I chose to use Adam's blah, blah, blah program because I needed help with XYZ. The best part is XYZ. 60 seconds, it goes on my show. Okay, so I start off by making my client, not just my audience member, but my client a part of my show at the very beginning. At the end of an episode, another great strategy. I don't always do this, but I try to do it maybe one out of every 3 episodes. Instead of an outro, I do an audience member episode, a fan favorite episode recommendation. So I use the same SpeakPipe link. I send a thing out in my newsletter. Hey, looking to collect a few of these. Just record a 60-second or less shout out where you go, hi, this is XYZ from the XYZ podcast. My favorite episode of Podcasting Business School is episode number whatever, because whatever. And what you'll notice as an outro, mentally, somebody just completed listening to an episode. Oh, I like that episode. Oh, here's this other person that's not the host recommending an episode. Guess what episode I'm going to listen to next? That one. Yep. You'll see a direct correlation. And now we've got a binger, which we want to create some podcast binge action going. So that's super effective. Now, to make this work, you must number your episodes in the title or it won't work. So a lot of podcasters are not doing that. They just have the text title alone. I always start with a 3-digit episode number. So the one that went out this week was 620 name of episode. So that makes it really easy because you can't search and go, I want the one about, turning podcast listeners into clients. Well, good luck. 620, you're going to spend a lot of, your thumb's going to cramp up from scrolling on that one. So now we've got our intro and outro, making our audience a part of our show. Then there are other ways to make the meat of the content. One is coaching episodes. This is 1 out of every 3 episodes that I do is a coaching episode. I invite a listener onto the show. I coach them as if they were paying me, but it is 100% free for 30 minutes. So quick requirements on this, pro tips, less than 30 minutes, because over 30 minutes, people should be paying you. Okay. And that keeps us going deep instead of wide. And my coaching episode, here's exactly how I do it. First question, if we're sitting down 6 months from today, everything has gone really great. What would that look like for you? And they kind of paint the picture of what they want to achieve over the next 6 months. Next question. Okay, that sounds great. What's holding you back from getting there right now? They identify a pain point. Okay, let's spend the next 30 minutes solving that pain point. That's the episode. Done.
I love it.
Great content. 80% of those people that come on my show hire me, which is great. And then everybody listening in gets to hear me coach. They're a fly on the wall. They're like, oh, this is what it's like. So I tell them, I'm like, I don't hold anything back. I pretend they're paying me thousands of dollars for consulting, and they get it all. I don't hold anything back for these people. So it's very effective with that expert positioning as well. Other ways you can make the episode client-centric. I do these things called Pod Pal Zoom parties, invite 20 of my listeners on the show, do a panel discussion. I teach a little bit, and then we have a discussion about it. Client or listener audio clip, a Q&A. I'm getting ready to cook one of these up where people send in questions. Audio clip again. Hey, this is so-and-so from the blah, blah, blah podcast. Here's my question for Adam. And just having that audio is nice because it's not like, people can fake it. If you're like, oh, on LinkedIn, Jane says that I'm extra handsome today. And here's my question. Yeah, it's like, what are you doing? So, but having that audio, even though people can fake with AI, whatever, but that's nice. And when people hear their voice on your show, when they hear other listeners' voices on your show, it creates a sense of community. This creates an opportunity for us to be a people's champion within our niche and really create an actual community where, yesterday I had about 40 podcasters in a Zoom room. We didn't even record it for content, and we just did networking. People were booking each other on each other's podcasts as guests and just making introductions and just adding value. And then all these people started sharing it on social media, and I got a ton of followers because people were like, I got to get an invite. I'm like, well, if you want an invite, you got to be on my newsletter list, and you might as well subscribe to my podcast too. So that's how we create this energy within our community. So I think that is the definite tactical strategy that we haven't really touched on in the first half of this episode, but making your audience members and infusing them into your show is so powerful.
I love that. Amazing. And what would you say to somebody who's brand new and maybe they don't have a big audience or really any audience? You said you started 000. So what about the person listening that's there? What would you say? Anything different they need to be thinking about?
Yeah, definitely lean heavy into the solo episodes and doing all that with expert positioning. But eventually you'll get somebody that DMs you a question or somebody comments on your post with a question and answer, add value, build a relationship. And then there'll be an opportunity where you go, hey, would you mind if I read this question online? Like start simple. Hey, can I read your question and kind of shout your Instagram handle out or something like that? Or, hey, would you ever consider recording this question for me so I could air it on the show and make an episode out of it? Or next level, would you ever consider coming on my show? I'm going to start doing these coaching episodes. Would you be interested in coming on the show and doing like some free coaching around this? I'd love to have you on. And that's how we start to open the door to these things a little bit. Now, in the fertility space, I used to do this in the weight loss space. It's a little bit different than the podcasting business space. Like you'll have fertility coaches that want to come on your show and learn from you and be coached by you because that's a huge value add. And it's not like there's no issues with that. If you have like a therapy niche, like you got to be careful about this too.
Yeah.
So what we have to do is create a safe space for those people and maybe really start simple and go, hey, this is first name only. I'm not going to tag you. It's not going to be video isn't going to be used. Things like that, or even using like clients as like a case study episode first and just air this content and let people know, oh, this is a cool thing. This is a safe space. And also I got a lot of clients that are in like the therapy space. I'm like, you can't make this the cry it out. Let's get into the deep stuff episode. Like, how can we just create a quick win and, just help them build momentum? So, and a lot of people in the health space, like, oh, my weight loss clients won't do this because they're embarrassed about whatever or how they let themselves go or, anything like that. There's a lot of mental stuff with that. But I'm like, I had a weight loss podcast and I would invite people on. It was just first name only, but we just kept it like real light. It wasn't like, let's talk about your childhood issues and stuff like that. It was just like, okay, same format. I'm like, where do you want to get to in the next 6 months? What do you feel like holding back? And they would say something like, well, we're traveling and I'd lose it while we travel, or my spouse eats pizza every night and kind of isn't that supportive or whatever. And I'm like, okay, well, let's just talk about strategies to help you be more prepared for this sort of a situation. In your niche, just thinking like in the fertility space, I think just like helping them analyze a lab or something like that, or just understanding what's one dial that you could turn that helps us achieve our goal from a physical standpoint. Not focusing on things that have gone wrong or things that are wrong with our body and all that. It's just like, well, if you took this marker and got it to here, and here's the one thing that I think could do that, this is a simple solution. That's a 15-minute episode, and you add huge value to that person. and you unlock that expert positioning on your audience and like, oh, wow,
Yeah.
I could do that too, and apply that too. I wonder what else she could do for me. So I think, but it's a slow build, especially with the 000 audience, but just having your radar open for those opportunities of like, ooh, could I have a conversation there? I mean, what's the harm in inviting somebody on and they say no or whatever? No big deal. Like, hey, and I would make it a low pressure thing. Like, hey, no big deal if you say no, but I'm wanting to start doing these episodes and just introduce the idea.
Yeah, I love that. And yeah, I completely agree. We've done something similar where we do stories of hope and definitely not digging into the personal pieces of somebody's fertility journey, but what have they learned? How have they grown? What have they changed in their lives that have gotten to them that positive result? So I love that you say that. And I think you should start small and, just pick one question, one audience member, and then you can grow it from there. So I love that you say that. And I could just keep going all day, but we do have to start to wrap up. So I know I asked you mistakes that you made in your business in the first half, but anything that you feel like, other than obviously starting your whole business around podcasting business school, anything that you're like, I nailed that. I'm so glad I made that decision. What would that one thing be?
There's a lot of things that have been the crash and burn. I think just seeing other people that weren't that different from me and just going and just constantly telling myself, like, if that person can figure this out, I could figure this out too. Like I had that mantra in my head. Like that was always something like, this person is selling things on their podcast. And honestly, I was like, I think my content's a little bit better than theirs, to be honest. And if they can do it, I can do it. So it's just like getting reps in and just figuring it out, Like if I don't quit, this is figure outable. So I think that was something that has always served me extremely well. And I hope that your audience, if they're thinking about doing this, that I could be an example. Like I'm a very normal human being. When I tell people, I'm like, don't listen to the first 100 episodes of Podcasting Business School because they kind of suck. Like they are not good. The last 500 or so, pretty good. But like you will see how normal I am. I'm trying all kinds of dumb calls to action and stupid stuff that didn't work. And it's embarrassing. I'm like, oh, please don't listen to episode 30 or whatever. Like start at the new ones and listen backwards if you want to bench, please. But like I'm a very normal person. I don't know how to build a website. I'm mediocre at social media. I just don't freaking quit. I don't quit because I knew what the goal was I wanted to achieve. My why was bigger than all the why nots. Mm-hmm. And I just kept going. So I think that's the one thing that's really served me well is just that, if somebody else that isn't that different from me could have success, so could I.
I love that. And your why was bigger than all the why nots. That's a beautiful saying. I love that you say that. Well, speaking of getting to know you personally, as we wrap up the show, I love to do something called a lightning round where I just ask you a series of questions. I've gotten to know you a lot during this episode, but this is on a more personal level. So are you open to that?
Lightning round, engage.
Yes,
all right.
Let's do it. So talk to us about one way you reset after a stressful day.
Well, I work out and all that, but I am obsessed with red light and infrared therapy. Mm-hmm. Obsessed. Yeah. The gym I go to now has one of those booths that you get in like a phone booth and it's surrounding you. They got the oxygen in there and all that. Obsessed. So I like that. Like I'm like, I can just feel my inflammation and stress leaving. So, and I work from home, but I try to create a little buffer of like, I'm done working. Now it's dad time. Now it's husband time. So I like to just go do a little red light and then a little sauna, a little steam sauna afterwards, something like that. So that's how I reset.
Love it. How about a piece of tech you have in your business that you can't live without?
I'm probably one of the lowest tech people you've ever met, but like an app that I use consistently for my show is called It makes editing really easy. Like I can create an episode and then bulk remove every time I say the word and things like that. Or like this is a studio sound AI button, boom, hit that. So yeah, I love that. That's pretty simple. And even a non-techie person like me can figure it out.
I love it. How about AI? Yes, no, still figuring it out.
This is where I am very unique. Mm-hmm. And I describe myself as 2026 version of Amish. I've never used AI. I don't have I've never, ever used ChatGPT. I don't know. I keep inviting this Claude guy into my show. He won't reply to me. I don't know. Like I've never used it. And to me, I'm a content creator and I'm not anti-AI. I'm anti people thinking they have to use it. And to me, I want to work my creativity muscles as hard as possible because that is how I earn a living. So all my content, all my social media, I make my brain work to figure it out. And could I optimize in some other ways? Sure. But I just haven't gone down that road yet.
Gotcha. What's one word that describes your season of life?
bald. No, clean shaved head. I would say family centric, family focused. Like everything is run through the family filter right now. I've got a son that's a freshman in high school. My daughter is a fifth grader, and I'm obsessed with them. Like I'm obsessed with being at all their things. Like I am slowly mourning the day that my son graduates and goes to college. Like I get sad about it already. I'm like, oh, this is gonna suck. Like I've got one of those little frames that you can update with like a slideshow of pictures. And I sit there and I watch it like 5 times a day. Like I walk by and I'm like, oh, let's just watch this for a little bit. And I get like emotional about it. I'm like, what is wrong with me? I'm so like, this is so sad. But everything is family centric. Like I set up my schedule. I set up my 3-day work week around being around my kids and my wife as much as possible. And so that's really important to me.
I love that. I love that. And that's one of the things I talk about on this show and why it's so amazing to be in a career that you can do that and you can work from home and you can center your life around your family. And there's nothing better than that. Yeah. I love that you say that. And I do the same thing. I have a 10-year-old and a 12-year-old and I'm already like counting. I'm like, we only have 7 summers left. And what are we doing?
It's like, yeah, I'm sure you've heard this, but like the most depressing thing I've ever heard in my life is like once your child graduates high school, you have spent 95% of the time you'll ever spend with him. I'm like, are you kidding me?
No.
Like I only get 5% after that. I'm like, it makes me sweat thinking about it.
Me too. Oh my goodness. Our mission on this show is to help women solve infertility. One of the ways that I'm doing that is creating the next round of coaches that can focus in this space. I think it's so important to have a certification behind your name so you can not just know the educational piece, but also learn how to coach. So tell us your take on that. Why do you think it's so important for somebody to become a certified fertility coach if that's the direction and the niche they're looking for?
Well, I use the same business model. Like I am a coach of coaches. I have my own certification. I call it my podcast growth coach certification. It just adds credibility. It's like borrow Dr. Kayla's credibility as you build up your own. And I tell my students the same thing. I'm like, I've got over 1 million downloads of my show. I've got millions and millions of client downloads and all this stuff. You are just, getting started in the space. Leverage my credibility and my name in this podcasting business school certification or Dr. Kayla certification. Like it's a huge leap forward. Like the fastest way to get somewhere in business is to find somebody that is successfully doing what you're doing and learn from them. And the fact that you are adding that stamp of approval is huge. And people can leverage that. So I think it's a smart business model and it's really smart. It's a very smart move for somebody that's just getting started and kind of carving their own niche within the space.
I love that you say that. And that's exactly it. I say, you're trying to do what I've already done. So let me show you how.
Exactly.
I love that you say that. Amazing, Adam. Well, tell everybody, where can they find you and learn more about your work? Tell us about Podcasting Business School, all the things.
Yeah, well, based off of our conversation today, I'd like to give you, your audience, a single call to action. All right. If you've never listened to my show before, I would like you to start a very specific episode that I think will help you most based off of what we talked about today. It's episode number 608 of Podcasting Business School. I talk about the podcast SEO strategies that help me cross 1 million downloads. So I don't have a team. I don't have a VA. I'm doing this by myself and I'm doing it full time. And I'm over 1 million downloads. I'm a top 0.01% podcaster. So listen to episode 608. That's a great gateway into helping you figure this out. And, I'm Podcasting Business School. I'm only on one social media platform, which is Threads, which is another unique thing. But you can find me on Instagram too at Podcasting Business School. I do a lot of stories, and then my website is podcastingbusiness.school, and just come and say hello. And if I could add one extra little micro call to action, if you guys are enjoying the show, please, I'll do the call to action for you. Go leave a 5-star rating and review and just do a little something on there and maybe mention this was your favorite episode, because that would feed my ego as well. That made me feel real good. That episode with that loud, big voiced fella was a really good one, something like that. And that's like a tip in the tip jar for podcasters. So if you guys go and do that, that'd be cool.
I love it. It's amazing. Well, thank you so much for being here. I could talk to you all day. I really could, but thank you, thank you, thank you. Any final thoughts? What do you want to leave us with?
No, I appreciate you having me on. I know it's a big deal when somebody shares their platform, and I just appreciate the opportunity. And like I said, your audience has me motivated a little extra. I brought a little extra energy today because I know that they are helping people through a very difficult time. We all know people that have struggled with fertility issues, and it's a tough battle, and you're helping make that a little bit easier for people, and you're helping inform the people that are going to guide them through that. So I think it's extra special. So I just appreciate the invite. Hopefully we've got people that are done podcastinating, they're ready to launch that show, and they help more people.
I love it. It's amazing. Well, thank you again.
Thanks, Dr. Kayla.
And thank you to everybody who's listening today. We appreciate you, and we'll see you in the next episodes. Bye for now. If this episode resonated with you, make sure you've subscribed so you never miss a new one. And if you found this helpful, I would love for you to leave a review or share it with another practitioner who's ready to step into fertility coaching. You can also download the Fertility Coaching Roadmap in the show notes to start to build your next level of impact. Thank you so much for being here, and I'll see you in the next episode, because the world needs more supported fertility journeys and more practitioners like you leading the way.